Okay, hi Rhiannon. We're gonna sit down for your interview here for the administrative coordinator position. Just a quick rundown of how this is gonna go. Uh, just gonna ask you a couple questions. I'm gonna take some notes over here, and it'll be pretty simple. It sounds like you've done this before, um, so no need to be nervous, no need to concern yourself. All right, so ready when you are?
Yes.
Excellent. So first and foremost, tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm actually an administrative specialist currently, and I've done this for about 17 years. I have always been curious about learning new things, and so every year I seem to be trying and doing different tasks, which has moved me through my career. I'm very interested in supporting teams, which has also been part of lots of my positions. So I'm kind of a organizational person. I'm a teamwork person. I'm a positive, encouraging type person. I'm also, even more recently, been more interested in mentoring. So I've been doing lots of micro mentoring within my teams, and that's something I'm looking forward to pursuing in future roles and hopefully maybe in an administrative coordinator position as well. So yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. I really like what you said about mentoring. I think it's really important that we are always trying to, how do I say this, have someone replace us as we move on. So we should
mm,
always be teaching the next, I guess, generation in our positions how to move up to the next level. So you said that you take on a lot of every year. You've been taking on more and more tasks. What tasks would you say kind of energize you the most?
well, definitely teams energize me and ways of supporting teams. I've created three different teams within my current position, one being our administrative send out team. I've created a metric and reporting team and also a billing team as well, each having different needs, and utilizing them to empower them to actually run their own teams and just being their support, also providing them opportunities for growing. That energizes me. I love having one-on-one meetings with them, seeing what ideas and creative things that they have come up with to make their job better, to make it be more efficient. So finding that creativity in my different teams. I also like, getting to know them so then I know what energizes them so that way I can support that. So it's anything from they love my billing team, they like trivia. So I'll actually bring to my huddles every week a new trivia question, and I might, bring like some snacks or treats. Like whoever comes answers the trivia question right, they love that. So I like being able to come up with things like that that energizes them, but I am energized by working with teams.
That's awesome. That's
Yep.
awesome. I mean, that's a pretty awesome way to build rapport. Just kind of have a nice
Yep.
group activity that everybody can kind of get excited for. Kind of gets you nice and hyped up to get through what can be like the rigmarole of the day.
Definitely.
That's
Definitely.
awesome. Well, so you said you've created kind of micro teams to handle the holistic, I guess, tasks of the department. How do you keep all that organized? Like, what's your organization system?
Well, a lot of our company uses Microsoft products. So obviously we've got Microsoft Teams, we use Outlook, and things like that. So, and I also use OneNote.
Mm,
So in speaking first with like using Outlook, a lot of businesses obviously emails are a big part of it.
mhm.
Um, so I do keep utilize Outlook's tasks and I try to keep current with tasks. I also have different specific folders for each team. And within that team, I have each person's name. And within that, another subfolder with like what projects they're working on. So as emails come in, I'm throwing things in folders. I'm throwing things on task list. I'm also using OneNote for putting together whatever projects we're working on, and I organize them by each team member. So I'm very much into folders, having lots of lists. And then, of course, like I said, we use Teams as well. So we have team channels that I'll put like agendas for each huddle on there, that everybody can then put topics on that agenda that then we bring to our actual huddle meeting. So that way we make sure everybody's remembering what we're needing to talk about or what didn't get talked about at the previous huddle, so that we're always kind of staying current with our projects. So that's kind of how I I try to keep it all organized as much as possible, which I seem to pretty much be able to do. Um, but like I said, utilize the resources that I have, which is Microsoft products, utilizing them the best of my ability. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. It seemed like one of those kind of people in the past who, before everything was on computers, would have 20, 30 file cabinets, each drawer alphabetically organized.
Hmm.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
speaking my language. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so on the, I guess, on the flip side of the position, obviously we still have customers that we have to deal with.
Hmm.
How much patient interaction would you say you have on a day-to-day basis?
So I do work in healthcare, but we work on the laboratory side, which is not necessarily directly patient facing, but we serve the providers who then serve the patients.
Hmm.
And so my administrative team, we have to have some customer service skills because we're getting phone calls from doctors and nurses and MAs calling on status of tests and things like that. So I train my teams when answering phone calls to automatically have their resources available. So that way they're ready to look things up. Also to have we have lists of where we send out tests to, so that way they can immediately be like, yes, this was sent out here. The turnaround time is 5 to 7 days. We're at day 5 for this such and such test. So that way they have their resources available so they can answer the question. But then also, if you don't know how to answer a question, you get their contact information and give them a turnaround of when they're going to hear back from you. So that's kind of how I train my teams. That's also how I was trained and how I answer calls dealing with our customers. So they feel like you're ready to take on the task. You're not just saying, I don't know. So they feel like you're on it and that they're important. So
Okay.
that's how we handle our communication and customer service.
Okay. Great. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, uh, being able to answer and tell people what you're going to do instead of just saying I
Mhm.
don't know, which actually leads me to my next question. How do you deal with situations where you do not know the answer?
Well, actually, I have a good story about that. When I years and years ago, I actually, when I was first started in this department, I used to get phone calls from this one oncologist, and he was always very cranky. And I'd see him on caller ID, and I would start shaking in my boots because he would ask questions that were a little above maybe what I knew, and so he could sense my uncertainty, which would
Hmm.
drive his basically his lack of confidence in that I could
Hmm.
answer his questions. And I finally had a manager that says, you're going to first of all have to get a backbone, and then going to need to find out how to answer his question or where to find it and let him know. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So instead of being afraid to answer that phone call, I said, okay, when that provider calls, I'm going to take the phone call. And I realized if I didn't know when a test result was coming back, if I didn't know where this provider was that they wanted to talk to, I said, I'm going to find out, and this is how I'm going to respond back to you. I'm going to send you a message, or I'm going to call your nurse, or what have you. And as soon as I started doing that and actually talking to him with confidence, he started treating me differently.
Hmm.
He started being like, okay, great. Thank you, Rhiannon. I'll look forward to hearing from you. And from then on, I wasn't afraid to answer the calls.
There you go.
So I just had to like dive in, lean into it,
Hmm.
and figure out if I don't know the answer, I got to tell them how I'm going to find the answer and say it with some confidence.
Excellent. Excellent. I like that response. I, I
Hmm.
I feel like confidence is kind of everything. Some people would call it fake it till you make it, but
Hmm.
um, I don't see that as really a downside. Instill confidence in someone that I am fully aware of the fact that I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but I do know where to look to get the answer. All
Hmm.
that's more important. I used to get told that it's more important to know where the answer is than to know the answer.
Because you're not going to ever know everything, but if you know maybe somebody who does know it, or you know a resource to go find the answer, that is a smarter person than
Yeah,
just saying, I'm going to tell you something even if it's not accurate because I want to show that I know everything. No, that's not that's not good.
yeah. Don't really trust the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Just one more question from me. How do you deal with the stress of, I guess, the increased workload? I say this because you work in, this is the healthcare industry. So obviously the current events of the past couple of years have put the healthcare industry under a great strain.
Mhm.
So just kind of in a regular basis, how do you deal with the overload in work when it comes?
Well, you're absolutely right with healthcare and with all the COVID. Our department, because we deal with laboratory, was slammed.
Hmm.
We've been slammed with all the testing that's needed to be done, all the communication of people wanting results, how are we going to result everything, um, as well as short staffing, because we had people then were out for great periods of time. And so
Hmm.
they instilled in us a lot of like, how are we going to have resilience through this? And one of them was from day to day, people would be out, workloads might be high, might be low. What are you going to do? And so kind of what we ended up having to do, and especially me, because I had two coworkers who up and left, I had to take on their roles, is I had to reevaluate everything that they did, cut out what were the highest priority tasks to create then what my day was going to be. And it might be a little bit of this person's job, a little bit of this person's job. And then at the end of the day, I'd recap with my manager, these five things are not able to be done. Do we still need to do them? Can we, table them for a week, 2 weeks, 6 months that we just don't tackle them right now? And so we were able to kind of like shift some things to different pots of, okay, we're going to tackle that this summer, or, we're not doing that project anymore. That's getting, shelved. And so I was able to kind of like reorganize, but it was day by day. All right, today it's going to be looking like this. Tomorrow will not look the same.
Hmm.
So I guess I'm really good about, I'm good about communicating. I also know how to, I mean, I know where the people that know what's going on. So I was able to bring in people from different departments and saying, first of all, we were even like labeling COVID tubes because there was
Hmm.
not enough people to even get them labeled to get them out to the clinic so that they could then start taking COVID tests. I mean, we were having to like be creative, utilize anybody in any way we possibly could. Um, and also, I was out in my building my teams, from my invoicing team might be kind of not having as much work. I'd be like, guess what you're going to do today? We're labeling COVID tubes, or you're going to be out answering calls from providers, or, kind of just day by day reassessing what we needed to do so that we could have some resilience to get through this difficult period of time. And
Yeah.
we did. Our days look different than they did that first year into COVID. So we're changing. We're still,
Nice.
dealing with some pains, but we're getting through it. So yeah, that's kind of like how I can deal with high workloads and, kind of crazy work environment.
Yeah. Sounds daunting.
Mhm. It was.
Wow. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?
Probably one question I would ask
Hmm.
is, if in applying for an administrative coordinator position, is that something that as a role that would be for in your department? So this is what I'm applying for. How do you see that role playing out for your department? This would be something I'd ask, like, I would ask if, like, is this something that your department is a new role? Is this a role that you've had before? How do you foresee this playing out for your department? What needs would they fulfill and value?
Okay, so to be completely honest with you, it's a new role, um, basically to kind of create, what word do I want to use? A liaison between myself, um, and the teams, which I'm glad that you mentioned teams so much because that's kind of how we've already been organized here, into very specific teams who handle a very granular piece of the department. And we kind of need someone to liaison between myself and them. I'm working at a higher holistic level, kind of dealing with big picture stuff and having to look into the big picture and follow the very many granular moving parts of this department. I need someone who can consolidate that and be a direct report of what is honestly 25 people. I need to get everything from one direction. So I need that coordination between all the multiple teams and the multiple sub departments of this department, and who can just create a streamline to myself. Does that make sense?
That does. That's great.
Okay,
Gave some
awesome.
clarity. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that is it.
All right,
Thank you.
awesome. Well, thank you for your time. We did record this interview, so I will get you the transcript and the video as soon as we're done here. Okay.
Alrighty.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye.